As her shift ended, Nurse Maria Rodriguez was cycling home along the Miami coastline, enjoying the beautiful summer day. Suddenly, she heard a sharp scream and turned to see a man struggling beneath the waves. While beachgoers panicked and shouted, Maria dropped her bike and ran into the water. "Stop! Too dangerous," yelled an elderly woman. "Nobody can swim in this current." But Maria was already powering through the waves with strong strokes because waters like these were far from foreign to her. And in the next 25 minutes, everyone on that beach would learn who Maria Rodriguez really was. Because some nurses don't just save lives in hospital corridors, they know how to save them in the deepest parts of the ocean. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Before diving into this incredible story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button. Maria Rodriguez was the most reliable nurse at Jackson Memorial Hospital. At 29, she'd been working at the same hospital for 4 years. She never missed night shifts, maintained flawless patient care reports, and never complained despite challenging situations. Everyone in the emergency department felt secure in Maria's presence. She remained composed even in the most stressful moments, resolved complex situations, and always had necessary supplies ready. With her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, Maria brought comfort to patients through her gentle touch and calmed them with her soothing voice. Her green nurse scrubs were always clean, her stethoscope organized in her chest pocket, her identity clear but humble. Maria's level of medical intervention went far beyond standard nursing education during emergencies. While others applied basic life support, she could demonstrate much more advanced analytical approaches. "How do you examine so thoroughly?" they would wonder. "You learn through experience," Maria would say briefly. But this experience hadn't come from ordinary sources at all. Maria's equipment organization distinctly differed from her colleagues. She would arrange each supply with military precision, checking emergency response tools, monitors, and 4 systems as if preparing for a critical operation. Sometimes her colleagues found this perfectionism excessive. "We're just nurses, Maria, not special forces," they would joke. Maria would smile without explaining, knowing that both sides were actually wrong. Maria's emergency leadership abilities amazed even doctors. "Where did you acquire this command capability?" they would question. "Experience," Maria would say, always vague, never going into details. And these experiences were gained in completely different fields from normal nursing education. Maria Rodriguez had joined the Coast Guard at 19. When she joined the Coast Guard, she chose the Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer program. After basic training, she was accepted into special programs. Maritime Special Operations, the world's most challenging underwater rescue program. But this was just the beginning. The real specialized training was yet to come. Combat Rescue Swimmer School, 12 months of intensive underwater training, storm sea rescues, operations in limited visibility, deep water search and rescue. Maria was selected for the top 5%. And this training would save lives that day at Miami Beach. "A rescue swimmer isn't just a swimmer," said Training Commander Senior Chief Martinez. "You're the person making life and death decisions underwater. No matter how big the waves, no matter how strong the current, you will save the missing persons." Maria embraced this philosophy, conducting extreme weather rescue operations, performing dives in zero visibility, providing rescue team leadership in critical moments, and fighting rescue battles despite technical difficulties became her core values. The hardest part of her training was deep water emergency rescue operations. Storm ocean search and rescue, underwater operations with basic equipment, improvised rescue techniques. Maria developed exceptional abilities in this area. Her first assignment was in the Caribbean on sea rescue operations. Warm but turbulent waters, hurricane-force waves, life-saving missions from capsized vessels. Maria's most challenging intervention was rescuing 6 people from a yacht that overturned during a tropical storm. In churning waters with zero visibility, using only sound navigation, she had pulled the entire group from the water. Her second assignment was in the Gulf of Mexico, providing special operations support, rescuing crashed helicopter pilots in hostile waters, underwater search missions in dangerous environments, covert rescue operations. The techniques she learned in these missions were methods never used in civilian life, especially missing person location methods in extreme water conditions. Maria had taught herself to work in environments where visibility was zero. Minimal light, limited breath, maximum efficiency. Her hands had become underwater navigation tools, and these abilities would be critical that day on the beach. Her third assignment was Atlantic Region Maritime Security Rescues, offshore platform emergencies, vessel accident rescues, high-risk underwater operations. Maria now had rescue specialist-level expertise in all types of marine conditions. But most importantly, she never allowed any weather condition to stop a rescue operation. Over 10 years, Maria had successfully completed 142 critical water rescue operations, never abandoning any due to weather conditions. So why had she left the Coast Guard to become a nurse? This story was more complex. PTSD, adjustment issues, civilian life challenges. Maria's transition hadn't been easy. High-stress rescue work felt comfortable, but civilian hierarchy was different. And this tension would explode that day. After receiving an honorable discharge in 2021, Maria had transitioned to the civilian health field. She used PTSD therapy, adjustment counseling, and career transition support. Nursing had been a perfect choice. It reminded her why she became a rescue swimmer, helping people at risk. The hospital environment was a predictable routine after years of uncertainty. Peace was welcome. When Jackson Memorial Hospital hired her, Maria was overqualified. Nursing license, 10 years of military rescue experience, maritime special warfare certifications, but the hiring panel didn't ask detailed questions. They were happy to find a qualified nurse. "I've always loved helping heal people," Maria had said. And this time, she was completely sincere. Daily duties were simple compared to combat rescue operations, patient care, medical support, routine procedures. But Maria was doing much more. She analyzed every case with rescue swimmer eyes. She anticipated potential emergencies in advance. She predicted how critical cases might develop. "Maria, how do you make patient assessments so detailed?" Her colleague Sophia would say observation. Maria would reply, "Every patient teaches something." This observation came from 10 years of combat rescue operations training. That beautiful summer afternoon, as her shift ended, Maria left Jackson Memorial. She planned to cycle home along the Miami coastline. She changed out of her green nurse scrubs into athletic wear, a breathable coral tank top and navy blue shorts. Her dark hair gleamed in the sun. While cycling along Ocean Drive, Maria kept the ocean in view. The waves looked stronger than normal. The currents appeared fast. Maritime Special Operations training had given her automatic water condition assessment ability. Around 4:30 p.m. passing through the popular beach area near South Beach, Maria saw a peaceful scene. About 50 people were on the beach. Families, young people, retirees. Normal summer afternoon atmosphere. As she was slowing her bike, she heard a sharp scream. She turned toward the sound and the scene she saw froze her blood. About 100 m offshore, a man was struggling in the water. He was raising and lowering his arms, trying to keep his head above water, but waves kept pulling him under. The strong current was carrying him away from shore. The beachgoers were in panic mode. They were shouting, making phone calls, calling to each other. "Someone help him." But nobody was entering the water. "I called 911, shouted a young man. "Lifeguards will take 10 minutes. Maria assessed the current and distance. The man was being swept offshore every second. 10 minutes was too long. In 3 to 4 minutes, he would likely be lost at sea. Maria threw her bike down and started removing her athletic shoes. "No, miss," shouted an elderly woman. "Stop. Too dangerous. Nobody can swim in this current. You'll drown, too." But Maria was already running toward the beach because waters like these, currents like these, rescue scenarios like these were far from foreign to her. When Maria dove into the water, her body automatically switched to maritime special operations mode. This wasn't just a nurse's reflex. It was the automatic activation of 10 years of combat rescue operations experience. The water was warm, but Maria's body was accustomed to thermal regulation. In her first strokes, she oriented herself to the water. The current was strong but predictable. Waves were 4 to 5 feet high. She would need to account for rip current effect. A rescue strategy formed in her mind. Diagonal approach, triangular approach, accounting for current, assess victim's panic level, minimize hypothermia risk. she needed to swim 150 m. For Maria, this was routine distance. In maritime special operations, she had done 500-meter fully equipped swims, combat rescue operations under war conditions. As the distance to the victim decreased, Maria evaluated him. Male in his 40s, athletic build, but exhausted, panicked, but not yet at the water ingestion stage. High rescue probability. When 50 m remained, the men noticed Maria and started trying to swim toward her. This was a critical mistake. "Don't move," Maria shouted with her powerful voice. "I'm coming to you. Stay calm." But the man wasn't in panic. He was reaching the exhaustion stage. His arms could no longer support him. His breathing rhythm was breaking down. Maria took rescue position, supporting the man's chin with her left arm while swimming powerfully toward shore with her right arm. The current was trying to pull them offshore, but Maria's maritime special operations training was prepared for this situation. Using diagonal swimming technique, she executed effective swimming against the current. She covered the 75-meter distance in 4 minutes, bringing the men to safe shallow water. But just as they reached shore, the man completely lost consciousness. His pulse weakened, breathing stopped. Maria quickly pulled him onto the beach. Maria positioned the man safely on the sand and immediately began CPR. The crowd on the beach approached in amazement. "What's that woman doing? CPR. She looks professional." But for Maria, this was routine operational procedure in maritime special operations, shore rescue operations, emergency medical intervention, critical life support. All of these were training curriculum. When Maria began CPR, her body automatically switched to maritime special operations mode. 30 compressions, 2 breaths, military standard protocol. She counted each compression, monitored pulse, assessed consciousness level. At the 5-minute mark, the man began breathing slightly, but was still unconscious. Maria continued CPR uninterrupted. Her arms were starting to tire, but 10 years of training had programmed her never to give up. The beachgoers watched as if mesmerized. Nobody believed someone could perform such effective CPR for so long. Who is this woman? Is she a doctor? How does she know this technique? At the 8-minute mark, the man's pulse began strengthening. Maria's maritime special operations training was working. The critical rescue operation was heading toward success. "Come back," Maria murmured while maintaining continuous compression. "I promised Isabella. Nobody gets lost in the water." At the 12-minute mark, the men began coughing. Water was coming out. Breathing was improving. Maria reduced compressions and switched to vital monitoring. At the 15-minute mark, the man's eyes slowly opened. What happened?" he murmured, breathing with difficulty. "You're safe," Maria said in her calm but authoritative voice. "You had a near drowning. I performed 18 minutes of CPR. You need to go to the hospital now." At the 18-minute mark, Maria had completed the CPR. Everyone on the beach was applauding, but for Maria, the operation wasn't finished yet. Hypothermia, water aspiration complications, and respiratory monitoring were still needed. Maria positioned the men in recovery position, and began comprehensive assessment, vital signs monitoring, hypothermia evaluation, respiratory function check. This wasn't basic first aid. It was combat medicine under field conditions. "Call an ambulance," she shouted to someone on the beach. "I'm a nurse," Maria said. "This man is stable. Hypothermia risk exists but not critical." The beachgoers turned their attention to Maria. Who was this woman? How had she performed 18 minutes of CPR? How was she so calm? The EMS team arrived 12 minutes later. Paramedic Carlos Rivera began scene assessment. "What's the situation?" "Male patient estimated age 45 near drowning case," Maria said in professional reporting voice. "Underwater approximately 3 minutes, 18 minutes shore-based CPR administered, current status spontaneous breathing present, strong pulse, early stage hypothermia." Carlos Rivera looked at Maria in amazement. This was professional level reporting, not typical civilian intervention. Carlos asked while continuing the victim care. Maria hesitated. "Registered nurse," she replied, helping transfer the men to the stretcher. "Your assessment is extremely thorough. Do you have specialized training?" Maria paused. "Military medicine. Which branch? Coast Guard. Combat Rescue Specialist. The lead paramedic looked at Maria with new respect. How long? 10 years. 3 deployment periods. Maritime Rescue Operations Specialist. Carlos nodded. That explains everything. Your patient care was textbook perfect. The rescued man was transported to the hospital and made a full recovery. Maria's 18 minutes of CPR on the beach had saved his life. The witnesses on the beach continued talking about the incident. That woman was like an angel. How did she know to perform CPR for so long? She was so professional. Local news heard about Maria's story. Hidden hero, hospital nurse turns out to be Coast Guard rescue specialist. But Maria gave no interview, didn't appear on cameras. The next day, she came to work as usual. Same green scrubs, same ID card, same route, but nothing was the same anymore. Her colleagues looked at her with different eyes. They addressed her respectfully as Nurse Rodriguez rather than just Maria. Emergency Department head nurse Jennifer Thompson called Maria to her office. Maria, she said, can I understand what happened yesterday? I saw it on TV. Maria was hesitant. She'd been avoiding this conversation for 4 years. I have medical training, she said simply. Medical training? Thompson looked amazed. Maria, you performed 18 minutes of CPR on the beach. That's not possible with normal medical education. Maria took a deep breath and realized it was time to tell the truth. I was a Coast Guard Special Operations Maritime Rescue Specialist, 10 years active duty. Thompson froze. You were a Coast Guard rescue swimmer? Yes. Maria confirmed. Maritime Special Operations Rescue Specialist. Thompson stared in disbelief. Why did you never mention this? It wasn't necessary. I'm a nurse now. Maria's story spread through the hospital community. The nurse, who's actually a maritime rescue specialist. Stories were told throughout the medical community, and these stories began inspiring other military veterans. Young nurses wanted to learn from Maria. How do you stay so calm during the most stressful situations? Experience, training, understanding that every patient matters equally. Maria started a mentorship program, military to civilian healthcare transition support so other veterans could find similar paths. A specialized emergency rescue unit was established at Jackson Memorial. Maria became the lead instructor. Military rescue experience was being transferred to civilian healthcare. A year later, Maria became emergency response coordinator, but she never left her nursing identity behind. Field rescue teaches you differently. Maria would say, every second counts. Every decision is vital. Every patient deserves to be saved. David and Anna began working on Maria's emergency team. A pipeline from nursing to rescue specialists had been created. Maria's story isn't just about heroism. It's also about rescue expertise, finding meaning in civilian life, the instinct to serve, and never giving up. Because sometimes the greatest rescuers work as nurses in hospitals, ready to save lives even in the ocean. When the people Maria saved see her, they say, real heroes overcome currents. The courage Maria showed that day at South Beach didn't just come from Coast Guard training. It came from her determination to protect people from extreme situations in civilian life. I'm no longer a soldier, Maria says. I'm a healer and no current will cause me to lose people. Maria Rodriguez's story is real. She's still there in hospital corridors, continuing to save lives. Maybe there are similar hidden heroes around you, too. Maybe your nurse, your doctor, or your healthcare worker has also lived a very different life in the past. Show them respect because they deserve much more than what's apparent. Here at Hidden Legends, we continue telling the stories of these kinds of hidden heroes. Tell us in the comments which city you're watching this video from. And have you ever encountered a healthcare worker with such a hidden background? If Maria's story moved you, like the video and subscribe to the Hidden Legends channel. Turn on notifications because we share the unknown stories of real heroes every single day. And remember, your healthcare provider might also be someone like Maria Rodriguez. See them, respect them,